Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. It's October 31st, 1956, the third day of the Suez War, and the skies are ablaze with conflict, even though Britain and France haven't yet fully entered the fight. For an introduction and overview of previous events, be sure to watch the first 4 episodes of this series on our channel. Early that morning, the Egyptians suffered a major setback when poor coordination between 2 air bases caused them 3 Vampire jet aircraft over the Mitla Pass. Despite this loss, the Vampire jets continued their sorties against Israeli positions, albeit always escorted by MiGs. Another dramatic event unfolded very early in the day, with the bombardment of the Israeli port of Haifa at around 3:40 a.m. A radar-equipped C-47 working in tandem with the Israeli Navy pinpointed the source, the Egyptian destroyer Ibrahim El Awal, originally a British Hunt-class ship, detected 15 miles northwest of Haifa. In response, the French destroyer Kersain, on anti-aircraft alert in Haifa, fired 64 shells. However, the attack had no effect, and a malfunction limited Kersain's top speed, preventing it from pursuing the Egyptian vessel. By about 5:30 a.m., 2 Israeli destroyers had located and attacked Ibrahim El Awal. Then just before 6 a.m., 2 Ouragans from number 133 Squadron were scrambled from Hatzor to support the naval forces. Flight leader Jacob Agassi made the tactical decision to use unguided rockets instead of bombs, believing they offered a better chance of scoring a hit. Although visibility was good, the Ouragan pilots still relied on guidance from the C-47 crew that had been shadowing the Egyptian destroyer despite the constant threat from its anti-aircraft guns. With fuel levels already low, the Ouragans fired all their rockets in a single pass. A post-war investigation later concluded that only 1 rocket from the Ouragans actually hit Ibrahim El Awal, while the Israeli destroyers managed to score 5 more hits. That damage was enough to disable the ship's power and rudder, forcing the Egyptian crew to surrender. The vessel was then incorporated into the Israeli Navy, serving under the name Haifa until the late 1960s. Israeli fighter bombers were relentlessly employed in attacks on Egyptian forces across Sinai, with the focus shifting from the positions of Israeli paratroopers at Mitla to the central and northern parts of the peninsula. 2 Ouragans flown by Moti Hod, the 113th Squadron commander, and Ezer Weizman, the future president of Israel, initially took off to attack Ibrahim El Awal. However, when the ship surrendered before they arrived, the 2 aircraft were redirected to strike enemy traffic in northern Sinai. There, they encountered an Egyptian brigade advancing east and claimed to have destroyed 7 vehicles and 3 artillery pieces. They also reported sighting 6 Vampire fighters at the El Arish airfield, but these Vampires turned out not to be real aircraft at all. Throughout the conflict, the Egyptians effectively employed decoys by placing high-quality wooden replicas of aircraft such as the de Havilland Vampire and MiG-15 in their air bases. Later, around 8 o'clock, 2 more Ouragans attacked the El Arish airfield and claimed to have destroyed 6 Vampires, along with several light planes and vehicles. There were 2 more similar attacks later that day, and in each instance, the decoys fulfilled their purpose flawlessly. Despite initial hesitations fueled by the threat of Egyptian MiG-15 and MiG-17 fighters, the Israeli Air Force soon began deploying even its piston-engine aircraft against ground targets. When the Israeli No. 7 Brigade was tasked with occupying Abu Agela, they requested air support to neutralize Egyptian fortifications in the Katef sector and to interdict enemy forces west of their objective. In response, No. 105 Squadron from Ramat David, flying veteran P-51 Mustangs, took to the skies with 4 aircraft. They were sent to attack enemy forces approximately 40 kilometers west of Abu Agela, where they encountered a column of about 30 vehicles. Mustang pilots claim to have destroyed 10 vehicles, including 2 tracked vehicles and 1 tanker. About 15 minutes later, another flight of 4 Mustangs lifted off from Ramat David. With no Israeli forward air controllers available at Abu Agela and ground targets proving difficult to identify due to dust-covered or missing markings, the flight shifted its focus to the El Arish sector. There, they detected a column of roughly 30 vehicles, including about 20 tanks. The Mustangs made 3 low-level passes to engage the enemy, which fully alerted the Egyptian forces. In the ensuing exchange, 3 of the 4 Mustangs were hit by anti-aircraft fire. One of the Mustangs, piloted by Asaf Ben Noon, suffered a hit to its oil system, forcing him to perform an emergency landing in the field. This incident marked the first loss of an Israeli Mustang during this conflict. Several more occurred, and the exact causes of these losses remain disputed between the two sides. We'll analyze the details further in future videos. The vulnerability of piston-engine aircraft was underscored once again when No. 110 Squadron dispatched 8 de Havilland Mosquitoes to bomb the El Arish camp and then strafe enemy traffic along the road, codenamed Radish by the Israelis. Although they claimed the destruction of 13 vehicles, the mission took a toll. 4 Mosquitoes were damaged. All managed to return to Ramat David, although one was forced to belly land and another ground looped. The situation grew even more challenging for the Israelis, because British and French commanders decided to postpone their airstrikes against Egyptian air bases and other targets until the evening of October 31st. In response, the Israelis had to rely heavily on every available combat-capable aircraft, even trainers. No. 140 Squadron, equipped with T-6 Harvards, originally known as Texans, was tasked with attacking Egyptian fortifications in the Katef sector. The first flight of 4 T-6s arrived at low altitude and launched an assault on well-defended enemy positions. However, deploying such slow and vulnerable trainers proved to be a risky move. All 4 aircraft were hit. The squadron commander, Moshe Eshel, was killed, and another pilot was forced to execute a belly landing about halfway back to Teman field. Throughout the day, both Israeli and Egyptian fighter bombers continued their close air support and interdiction missions. Unconfirmed reports even suggest that the Egyptians deployed piston-engine fighters such as the Spitfire and Sea Fury, though details remain scarce. What is certain is that Egyptian Meteors flew several air-to-ground sorties on October 31st. These missions were generally effective, though one Meteor was lost to ground fire. Its pilot managed to survive and evade capture. Combat air patrols also remained a constant priority. At 8:50, 2 Mysteres from 101 Squadron took off and reached an altitude of 30,000 feet over Abu Agela. Flight leader Jacob Naval, accompanied by Josef Zuk, the pilot who had shot down a MiG-15 the previous day, spotted a formation of 7 swept-wing aircraft flying east below. Although it was unlikely they were Israeli, they could have been French. As the 2 Mysteres descended to investigate, 4 of the unidentified aircraft vanished into the clouds, leaving 3 that were clearly identified as Egyptian MiGs. Likely, these MiGs had taken off from Abu Suwair to cover 4 meteors from Kabrit. The MiGs then turned left, possibly having spotted the Israelis. Naval fired 3 short bursts, but missed. He then trailed the lead MiG, only to be followed by another. Turning towards the evasive Egyptian fighter, Naval fired 2 more times without success, prompting his flight to disengage. Shortly after, Naval and Zug joined up with another pair of missed stairs flown by Amos Lapidot and Zori Klev. This newly formed flight spotted 2 additional MiG-15s, and a dogfight quickly ensued. Yaqub Nebo managed to get behind one of the Egyptian fighters, piloted by a young officer named Abd el-Rahman Muharram. Naval fired twice from a distance, but it wasn't until his 3rd burst that he scored hits. Still, the determined Egyptian pilot maintained control and executed evasive maneuvers. Eventually, Naval ran out of ammunition and the Egyptian fighter, forced low over the desert floor, was unable to return to base. Muharram eventually had to ditch his MiG in Lake Bardavil. After the conflict, the Israelis recovered the MiG from shallow water and credited Naval with the victory. The aircraft was brought to Hatzor Air Base, where it remains on display alongside the Mystery likely flown by Naval that day. The excitement on October 31, 1956 was far from over. In future episodes, you will witness more aircraft being taken down by ground fire, additional dogfights, and some disputed shoot-down claims. Thank you for your time and keep watching Showtime 112.